Our minds are pretty spectacular, but can our minds somehow be impacting or affecting our fertility? To answer this question and to give us the full breakdown of the mind-body link to our fertility is the amazing Russell Davis. So, Russell, welcome to the Mind-Belly Connection Fertility and Wellness Summit stage. We're so happy to have you here.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be part of it.
So before we just dive in, I did want to give a little background on Russell. So Russell Davis, fertility cognitive hypnotherapist, writer, and speaker, believes that you can find a sense of peace and control over your fertility. Whether natural or assisted conception, Russell has helped hundreds of couples all over the world move from despair to hope to success. Russell, the fertility specialist advisor to the National Council of Hypnotherapy, founded the Fertile Mind Fertility Mind-Body programs and coaching based on he and his wife's 10-year double infertility journey, which resulted in natural conception of their son. Russell's experience echoes his belief that too many couples go through fertility treatments unnecessarily and that the success rate of treatment is unnecessarily low. So Russell, once again, I'm so excited to have you here. And can you just kind of start by, just in your own words, telling us a little bit about your journey and what really took you to the work, the passionate work that you're doing today?
Yes. My wife was diagnosed with PCOS as a teenager, which is kind of fairly common. And unfortunately, PCOS is quite often misunderstood. It's quite a complex condition. There's many kind of variations within it. But so we always knew that possibly we couldn't have children. And she went on a journey to heal herself or manage things more naturally and changing her lifestyle. And we never believed we can get to the stage where we could have children. But she went on this 8-year journey for health, or natural health, and got a full cycle back. And suddenly there was a possibility that maybe we could have children. And after 18 months of trying after that, and by the point we really knew what we were doing, and my wife was working for a gynecologist, and things weren't happening. And then that's when I had my first test, and my result was actually diabolical. In fact, the doctor asked me whether I'd had radiotherapy or chemotherapy in the past. And that was just kind of completely kind of mind-blowing and just a real kick in the teeth, because up to then I'd hold on to hope that things could happen. But at that moment, I lost all hope. And my wife went through this kind of grieving process. I recognized that I wasn't really in tune with my feelings, and it highlighted all sorts of stuff going on in my life, stuff from childhood and feelings and emotions I buried and wasn't really acknowledging. And so I went on a journey, I guess, of self-discovery and recognizing these emotions. They're okay, they don't kill you. You can feel your emotions. And really letting go of limiting beliefs, I realized I had this belief that I don't deserve good things. And that was in relation to fertility in all areas of my life. So it was a real kind of eye-opener to what's going on in my life and my thoughts and beliefs and my feelings. And I got to a place, and sometimes my clients find it hard that this place exists, but we've both got to a place of peace without giving up. We got to a place of acceptance of peace of where we're at in our life, but still wanted to continue to have children. But there's an element of our sense of well-being and happiness was no longer dependent on having children. It didn't mean we didn't want to have children, but we felt we could be fulfilled in life as we were as well. And that's really the essence of, well, help people find that sense of peace on their journey. And so we went on and we did actually conceive naturally, and I look back and I can see how much my mind played a role in my journey. And we were told there's a 1 in a million chance of us ever conceiving naturally. IVF wasn't an option, and maybe ICSI was our only option, and we were just about to start ICSI when we conceived naturally. And I don't think it's any coincidence that it was a couple of months after from me resigning from my job that I wasn't enjoying and going through this kind of whole kind of self-acceptance and letting go of these thoughts, these feelings and these things which are holding back in life generally, but also I believe holding back in my fertility as well. So we went on, and we have a wonderful son. And then through that process of me recognizing I wasn't really living life to the full and I had these beliefs, once I let them go, I realized I wanted to change career and I moved into becoming a therapist, and naturally I didn't plan to, but naturally just started specializing in fertility because of our personal experience. I could relate to the client's experiences so much, and it's such a wonderful and amazing place to be able, privileged to help clients on their journey. And every time I get an email or a phone call telling me someone, from a client saying they're pregnant, it just tickles me pink as if it was the first one many years ago. It never fails to really kind of fill me with joy when I hear that news.
Well, thank you so much for so openly sharing your journey. There were a couple things that you said in there. One was finding that place of peace. And the other thing that I think is really powerful is so often we hear the female side of it, the female point of view. So to hear you share your perspective, the male perspective, I feel like that's really powerful. So I really thank you for that.
Okay.
And so you went into hypnotherapy. So can you kind of just bring us, give us a little bit of breakdown of like what is hypnotherapy and cognitive hypnotherapy for fertility?
Yeah, I practice as a type of or form of therapy called cognitive hypnotherapy, which is quite different to traditional hypnotherapy. One element of it is hypnosis, but it's like a toolkit of different approaches. So I kind of mold my approach for the clients rather than expecting one approach to work with everyone. So hypnosis is one element of what I use. And it's about helping people find this place of peace by letting go the thinking in our head, the stories we hold in our head, whether it's limiting beliefs or stories that tell us things aren't going to happen in the future, or maybe stuff from the past. And it's feelings as well, because our feelings are created by our thinking without us realizing it. So it's using tools and techniques and understanding, helping people to understand the nature of our thoughts and how our mind works, like the psychology of the mind. And that frees us from all that stuff in our head, those feelings and that thinking, which enables us to find an innate sense of well-being we're born with. We're born with a sense of I'm okay, the sense of well-being that comes from within us. But as we grow up, we get more tuned into thinking our well-being is dependent on external things, whether it's parents or teachers' expectations or the salary we earn or the size of the house we have. And it's about letting go of that and returning to that innate sense of well-being that we're born with and we never lose, we just lose sight of.
And how do our minds specifically, can our minds be impacting our fertility, and how are they doing that?
The medical world are kind of split between whether they say stress and our mind can impact fertility. But my personal experience, my clinical experience and research shows very much that your mind does impact your fertility. And if you think about it, the key fertility hormones, FSH, LH, they're all governed by your brain, by the hypothalamus and pituitary gland. And the pituitary gland also controls the stress hormone levels, all your hormone levels. So if you've got stress hormones flowing around, that's going to be impacting other hormone levels. You're going through the fight or flight response. Your body's controlling the response to the stress to keep you safe. And it almost shuts down the kind of what it deems to be the less important biological systems in that moment, which includes kind of fertility. So stress can very much impact the delicate balance or cocktail of hormones that are required for reproduction in different stages of the process. So in one sense, your mind and stress, I do believe, and research shows that you can almost double success rates through fertility treatment when you factor the mind in. Harvard had done a study where success rates went from 18% to 52%, where when the couples are going through mind-body programs to support their treatment. So there's almost letting go of these kind of negative emotions and thoughts that can impact the kind of biological process. But also, our mind and body, people talk about the mind-body connection, but actually the mind and body are not connected. The mind and body are one system. It's like when you have a nightmare and you wake up and you've got cold sweat and you're having a physiological response from something that's just purely in your mind. And it's utilizing that or harnessing that mind-body connection, or the fact that they're one system. You can not only let go of negative things like negative thoughts and beliefs and emotions, but also you can harness their joint system, because your unconscious mind controls all your bodily functions. If you cut yourself, you keep the cut clean and it just heals. Your unconscious mind knows what it needs to do. But you can actually harness that healing process to speed it up. If I have a running injury, I use hypnosis and visualizations to speed up my recovery by guiding my body to do what it needs to do. So you can use the mind to let go of things which are holding you back, but also harnessing that mind-body system to guide your body to do what it needs to do. And I've had clients who maybe don't ovulate and start ovulating. And is that letting go of stress, or is that harnessing the mind-body link for a positive effect? Who knows? But we see some wonderful biological transformations, and epigenetics and science is now demonstrating how even our thoughts can affect our biology, even down to DNA level. So it's utilizing that amazing mind-body system.
That's amazing. I love, that was so powerful what you said about the mind-body being only one system, but they're in unity. I love that. So you did touch a little bit for a second on talking about our unconscious minds. And so what role does the unconscious mind play in our lives and on our fertility journeys?
Most of our experience, often our behavior, let's say over 90% of our behavior, is driven by our unconscious mind. We have reactions to experiences, say seeing someone pregnant, or your friend tells you they're pregnant, and suddenly you have this reaction. I'll never ever forget the time when my best friend was talking to me about a situation with his son, and a young son at the time. This is before we had our son, and we're in the midst of our kind of journey. And they reacting this story, and he's saying, Daddy, tell me that story again. And I was feeling fine at that point. I was very kind of hopeful about our journey, and I was feeling very relaxed and enjoying that moment with our friends. But as soon as I heard those words, I just felt awful. I just felt complete despair, grief, just pain in that moment. And that was just an unconscious response to that experience. And it's because we have this thinking, unconscious thinking, going through our minds, stories we're telling ourselves, which create our experience moment to moment. Some people say they're in a very stressful job, but the job doesn't make them feel stressed. Nothing has the power to make us feel anything. It's our thinking, it's our mind that creates that experience. It's our thinking about those circumstances creates our experience in that moment. And a lot of that thinking is unconscious. It's habitual thinking we picked up over the years. Maybe a lot of it comes from childhood that becomes unconscious. So it creates our experience to all situations, moment to moment, and particularly in the fertility journey. It impacts our experience of it, but also the outcome of it, without us even knowing, because they're habitual unconscious thought processes that we're living, we're experiencing in life.
And so why is the mind-body link something that we might really want to take a look at? If there's been we've been having a lot of challenges on our fertility journey. Why is this, something that we need to start looking at, or might want to, dive into?
I think partly because it's funny how it's one of the most research areas of science, but also one of the most ignored when it comes to the medical world. So a lot of people aren't aware of the power of the mind, particularly around fertility, because a lot of traditional doctors won't advocate the mind-body link because there's no double-blind trials they expect and are used to when it comes to drugs. But there's growing, and there's plenty of studies. I mentioned Harvard University. There are lots of others that demonstrate the impact of the mind-body link and the mind-body system on fertility in all areas of our biology. So for me, I think it's really important for two reasons. One, it can help people have a very different sense of their journey, to find that place of peace without giving up. So you continue your journey without the desperation, without the kind of obsessive nature which can often be involved in the fertility journey. So you can have a very much more sense of peace about the journey as you continue it. And also I say, but also I think the mind's such an important part of the process. You can actually increase your success rate, and as I say that studies show you can double the success rate. And I really do believe, this is again my personal experience as well as clinical experience, that too many couples go through fertility treatment unnecessarily because the mind isn't factored in on their journey, but also the success rate of treatment is unnecessarily low because the mind isn't factored in as part of the journey.
Yeah, for me, that was my story is a little bit similar to yours. Is when I finally became pregnant from natural conception, I had left my job. But for me, it was a mind-body link too, and that it was interesting that nobody had suggested that in 7 years.
No,
it's very, very common. So now you talked a little bit about the scientific side. Are there any more studies or scientific evidence or anything out there? Are we going to see any glimpse of seeing this more in the mainstream moving forward, do you think?
I think absolutely we're going to see more and more of this coming into the mainstream. And I mean, we're talking about I had to find out more about later on my website, but I've got pages of the scientific evidence because I'm a scientist by background, engineer by background, and I like to think everything I do is grounded by science. But there's a massive amount of research behind the kind of mind-body system and also infertility. And I do believe, as I work with a lot of clinics and gynecologists, and more are starting to recognise the need to look after the patient's journey through the process, and recognizing how that can actually impact the outcome. And some of them call it integrated approach, where they're working with other practitioners like myself, as well as them doing the kind of traditional medical side. Another gynecologist I work with, he likes to call it fertility for life, where it's not just about having a baby, it's about being fit and being fertile in their mind and happy and a sense of peace in life. So I'm working with more and more kind of clinics who recognise the need for this, and the time I've been doing this, you can see the demand or you can see the benefit of it is growing within clinics. I reckon, yes, we'll see more and more becoming more into the mainstream. Yeah. That
gives us some hope that, and I think the integrative approach, like you said. So now we've talked about, the scientific side of it and why it's important. Can you share any tools with listeners really to help them kind of step into this, and how can they begin to find this sense of peace on their journeys that you've been speaking of?
A couple of things. One is, in a minute, I'd like to actually just share a little breathing exercise, I think is really, really simple but really profound, because what happens is when we get caught into our thinking and our unconscious thinking and our feelings, it's recognizing all our experience moment to moment is created by our thinking. It's created by our mind. We're only ever living in the experience of our thinking, and our feelings are created by our thoughts. So it's recognizing that when we let go of all that, we come back to the here and now, because our thinking takes us away from the here and now. Our thinking tells us stories about the future, maybe based on past experience. But nothing can predict the future, not even our thinking. We get caught up into believing it or worrying about the future, trying to second-guess outcomes. So we move away from the here and now, which is why meditation and yoga, all these things are really relaxing, really great, because they bring us back to the here and now. They ground us back to our body. Because that's another thing, when we get caught into our thinking, we move away from the here and now, we disconnect from our body. And so our body is always in the here and now. So it's about grounding yourself back into the here and now, because when you're in the here and now, you have that sense of I'm okay. You can't be anxious, you can't be worried when you're purely in the here and now. And you also reconnect to your body. And your body, your instinct, is your best guidance mechanism to life. Not just on fertility, on everything. Your instinct, your body is the best physician you can have. And often we're just so disconnected from our body, and we're so caught up in our thinking, we lose that sense of innate well-being that comes with being in the here and now. And this little breathing exercise grounds us back to the here and now. Because when you focus on your breath, you're focusing back on your body. Your body is always in the here and now. We haven't invented time travel just yet. And it works in two ways. One, it brings you back to the here and now by focusing on your breath. But also it forces the out-breath to be longer than your in-breath. And when that happens, you utilize more carbon dioxide in your breath. carbon dioxide is a natural biological relaxant. It's like when someone hyperventilates, you get them to breathe into a paper bag, they recirculate their breath, and they naturally kind of just relax and calm down. And this breathing exercise, it doesn't have to be a deep, special breath. It doesn't have to be in through your nose, out through your mouth. It can be a very nice, relaxed, natural breath. So no one needs to know even though you're doing it. You can actually do it with your eyes open. I often do this breathing while I'm driving. Not that I'm a particularly anxious driver. It just helps me like turn driving into like a meditation. I can always just be not unconscious, but on autopilot and just relax while I'm doing it. You can do it at your desk, because you can do it with your eyes open. No one needs to know you're doing it. Or you can practice your eyes closed. That's fine. But it's simple as this. As you breathe in, you count 1 to 7 in your head. And as you breathe out, you count 1 to 11 in your head. And you just repeat 1 to 7 in, 1 to 11 out. And you find a pace of counting that gives you a nice, relaxed breath. And if you find 7 and 11 are quite high numbers, you run out of breath, you can either hold your breath or have smaller numbers like 1 to 3 in and 1 to 5 out. So it's 7 in and 11 out, or 3 in and 5 out. And you just repeat. And even as I speak now, people can be trying that, even their eyes open or eyes closed, just 1 to 7 in and 1 to 11 out. And after 3, 5 or so breaths, you can start to feel more calm, more centered, and more relaxed. And for me, that can be a really useful tool when we get caught up in our emotions or our thinking and the stories, the pain, or lack of hope or belief. It's all thinking in our head. And when you just ground yourself back to the here and now, just a few minutes or a few seconds of that breathing, you can start to regain perspective. Because when we get caught into our thinking, we lose perspective of situations. Small problems become big problems. And we use the phrase, what was I thinking? When we worry about something, the next day I think, oh, I don't was thinking, I was worried about that. That's an example. We get caught up in our thinking. And just doing that breathing can help let go of all that noise in our head and just ground us back to the here and now. Enable us to get clarity of mind, regain perspective of the situation, and retune back into our sense of, I'm okay.
I'm okay. I like that. I was here doing that 7 in, 11 out. I love that. Thank you for sharing. So how can we, you shared the breath exercise, and I know you're going to take us through an amazing hypnosis in just a little bit. How can we use our minds to improve our chances of success?
Yeah, what I help people do, and I can help people on calls and with my one-to-ones, it's about helping them to understand this nature of thought. It's to an understanding of what thought is. And I often ask when I start working with someone, if I offered you a magic pill, and so if you take this pill again, so if you take this pill, you'd never think again, would you take it? And 100% of the time they say no, because we think we need our thinking. We think we need our thinking to be safe, to be wise, to make the right decisions in life. But it's about recognizing what a thought is and the nature of thought. And recognizing thought is actually not a good guidance mechanism to life. Thought is just stories in our head about the future or based on the past. But when we let go of all thinking, we can't stop thinking, no one can stop thinking, but we can just choose not to tune into it, we can choose to ignore it, recognize it for what it is, and it just passes through like clouds in the breeze. We access a better quality of thought, which I call wisdom, instinct, intuition. That's a much, much better guidance mechanism to life. And often people don't trust their intuition because they think, if I can't trust my intuition because I'll make whimsical decisions, I won't make wise decisions. But actually, your instinct, your intuition includes your knowledge, your life experience, your intellect. It includes all that. It's about recognizing whether you're in your thinking or whether you're in your intuition, your wisdom. And when you let go of your thinking and you find this place of intuition, this wisdom, it's always a place of innate well-being. So we're born with that place. You look at little kids, they're always in the moment. They don't worry about tomorrow, get hung up about yesterday. They're always in the moment. And that's where we're born, with that sense of I'm okay. So it's about helping people take them through a journey of understanding, of letting go of thought and understand the nature of thoughts. And then there's other ways using hypnosis and my hypnosis programs. You can do this almost using hypnotherapy as well, where you can let go of these stories in our head and also at the same time actively kind of harness the mind-body system by using visualizations and other things that enable them to guide their unconscious mind for what they want. So against those two things, it's about letting go of the unhelpful things, but then harnessing the mind-body system to guide the body to what they want. So there's different ways of supporting people, different ways they can use their minds in doing that, whether it's just listening to a hypnosis track or having more of a kind of journey of understanding the psychology of the mind. And it's through understanding people get these insights. It's not really about techniques. I mean, I've shared that breathing kind of technique. That can be really useful. But mainly it's about having an understanding that thinking is something you can just ignore, you can let go of. You don't need to buy into it.
So it was interesting when you asked about the pill, I totally went, no, I went to I need my thinking. And then you followed up by saying thought is not a good guidance system. And that is like, we rely on our thoughts. Yeah. And that's profound and amazing. Yeah. I was like, well, I wanted to know, what do they say? And as I'm sitting in my head going, no, I don't want to give up my thinking. So, but there's freedom. I hear you saying that there's freedom in, in releasing that.
Oh, there is. I mean, we make life so much harder for ourselves by getting caught up in our thinking, not just with fertility, in all layers of life. We make life so much harder, we make decisions harder, and it's about trusting that wisdom, that instinct we have within us. It's trusting we can let go of that noise and trust our ability to make these decisions through our instinct. And I'll give you an example where, even not related to fertility, when we get caught into our thinking, we lose the ability to have new creative thoughts. If you look at the times we've had creative solutions to or the best ideas, the best creativity, it's not when you're analysing or thinking about a problem. It's maybe when you're in the shower or going for a walk. These ideas come to mind. You have space in your mind for this creativity, this clarity of mind. And it's about finding that space, that sense of peace and clarity of mind, moment to moment. I mean, some people do it like via meditation. Meditation's great, but I believe your well-being is not dependent on meditating half an hour a day. You can find you're one thought away from being in that non-thinking place, which is a much better, say, guidance mechanism. Ideas just come to mind, ideas that you wouldn't have thought of before, solutions and things you wouldn't have seen before, because we get so caught up in our thinking. Sometimes I picture like a snow globe in our head. We shake this snow globe, and that's our thinking going round and round. But the good news is, when you just trust, you can let go of that. It settles automatically, because that peace of mind, that innate well-being, that clarity of mind is actually our default setting. It's how we're born. We make life harder by keeping the thinking going. And when we trust, we can just let go of it. It passes automatically, and we return to our default place. So it's actually about doing nothing. It's about doing less than having to work at getting peace of mind. Yeah.
What comes up for me when you're talking about that, letting it go, is there's almost a little bit of fear, because there's comfort in some way, comfort in the story. Yeah. And you might not know anything outside of that. So that's maybe the best.
Yes. Yeah. I completely agree. Well, I remind me of when I was at school, where these drama classes and these trust exercise, where to fall backwards and trust the person you're partnered with catches you behind you. And it's letting go of that fear and doing that. And that's a very good analogy, where it is letting go. It's trusting that you can let go of that thinking and you're going to be okay. In fact, you'll be more than okay. You'll be great.
That sounds like a good place. I'm sure so many people listening are, that's a place that they want to be. So can you share, a success story that, one of your clients that you've had from the work that you've done or that you're doing?
Yeah. I'll give you it sounds quite an extreme case, but I share it because it shows some of the power within this. Where Jessica, she was 40. Before she came to see me, she had a failed IUI cycle, and she had 2 failed IVF cycles. She was diagnosed with PCOS as a teenager and had diagnosed with endometriosis, protein S deficiency, hormone imbalances, you name it, she'd been diagnosed with it. She'd never ovulated regularly and had kind of problematic periods since puberty. She first got into contact with me during the 2-week wait of her second IVF, and she was in a very kind of desperate place. And I had very little time to work with her during the 2-week wait, and unfortunately with that, IVF was not successful. But we worked together over the kind of few weeks about helping her find that place of peace, of letting go of all these stories that enabled her. She had a sense of being quite depressive because she believed her well-being was dependent on having a child, and she never thought she could be happy unless she had children. So much pressure was on this kind of process, and I think a lot of people, and I experienced this myself, where some people don't really understand what it's like to go through infertility, and it can be quite a lonely journey. She found she was cutting herself off from pretty much everyone else around her because they just didn't understand what she was going through. And so just working through, helping understand how her thinking was playing a role with that, giving her some hypnosis, MP3s to listen to, because most of my work is with people all over the world. I don't necessarily see them in the same room, so I do it by talking over the phone or by Skype, and also I record MP3s for them to listen to at night for the hypnosis elements. And able to feel a sense of I'm okay in this, and able to let go of the stress, the desperation. And she found that her test results improved even before the next IVF, so her hormones started to come more into balance, and she was successful in her next IVF. In fact, she had twins. So she has 2 lovely girls, and that's one kind of story I share quite often because it has so much in there, not just feeling a sense of peace on the journey, but some dramatic biological kind of changes as well that enable her to be successful to the extent of having twins through the 3rd IVF. So her experience from the previous IVF to the 3rd one was just a very, very different experience, which she didn't believe she could get. She didn't even believe she can be hypnotized. And a lot of people think, I can't be hypnotized. Well, actually, everyone can be hypnotized. We go into trance many times a day. Trance is not a special state that only a hypnotist can get you into. So, I loved working with her because she was quite skeptical, but was desperate. And then, had quite an amazing experience through the journey of working together. Yeah.
Amazing. I love the success stories, and your story as well is an amazing success story. So thank you so much. And I know that you are going to take us through a hypnosis session in just a moment. But before we get there, I just want to know, what is the number one thing that you share with your clients that make the biggest impact on their journeys?
I think it's, saying don't believe your thinking. Your thinking is not true. It's just a story in your head. It's not truth. And your instinct is a better guidance mechanism to life. So it's just realizing that thinking in your head, that story in your head, you just let it go.
Don't believe your thinking. Great. Well, I know you're going to take us through a guided hypnosis session. And so can you just, before we just give us a little bit of when we should be listening to this, if, right now, as well as if you purchase the upgrades, if you're going to listen to this, on your own or listening to the replay, are there any guidelines or, things that you can share about that?
What we're going to do is a little kind of a taster kind of hypnosis, and be quite generic because I'm not aiming for particular clients or whether it's assisted conception or natural conception. It's quite a generic taster so people can get an experience of what it's like. But sometimes it is hypnosis, so you can get yourself comfortable. It's going to be about 10 minutes long, and actually hypnosis tracks don't need to be much longer than that because the key thing is repetition. Sometimes you buy these relaxation or visualization CDs and they're like 90 minutes or 60 minutes. Who's got 60 minutes a day to listen to it? So these can be short, and this one's going to be a short kind of a taster of it, but it is hypnosis. So If you are listening to the replay, the MP3, definitely don't be listening if you're trying to concentrate on something or clearly while driving. But get yourself somewhere comfortable where you're not going to be disturbed for the next kind of 10 minutes. And just sit back and you can close your eyes and just enjoy it. And just notice what experience you have internally. There's nothing you do to make it work. It's just notice what's happening internally as you go through it.
I love that you said there's nothing that you have to make work. So you don't have to do anything, just to be with and listen. Yeah. I love that. Okay, great. So we will get started.
As you close your eyes and take a few minutes to listen and relax, you can become aware of your breathing. Think about what your breathing is doing without controlling it. Just be aware how fast or slow it is. And how deep or shallow it is. Because your breathing is controlled by your unconscious mind, and often we're just not aware of it. As you focus on your breathing, your body begins to relax. Now your unconscious mind can hear whatever it needs to help with what you want so much. Because just as your unconscious mind controls your breathing, it directs all the many thousands of things your body does each day to keep you healthy and well. All the bodily processes are just a normal part of living, of life. No different from the life that flows around us. Seeds germinating, flowers blooming, eggs hatching, new life emerging all around us. And it's the same within you. New cells in your body being created every day. New replacing old. New ideas taking root within you. Even right now. Which means you can imagine your body doing what it needs to do. If you could bring your unconscious mind new ideas to help it help you fall pregnant, it could be something simple that guides your unconscious to create that fertility within you. If you were to imagine if that fertility had a colour, you could wonder what colour would come to mind. If you did, imagine that colour beginning to flow through you, everywhere it needed to go, to create an environment of new life, new beginnings, bringing new life and health to you, creating the perfect environment for healthy eggs and your baby to grow. A safe, nurturing environment. As you sink deeper into this colour, guiding your unconscious mind to all the things it needs to do for your body, to do all it needs to do to ovulate. Healthy eggs. Or to fertilize. The embryo to be nurtured and thrive. We can wonder what is the first thing that makes you realize you are changing. Becoming an environment so you're getting pregnant. Perhaps a growing sense of new life and new beginnings. The cycle of life. Each month getting stronger and stronger. aware of all the things your unconscious mind is doing to guide you towards what you want. That colour. Letting know exactly what you want to accomplish, you're falling pregnant. It can continue to maintain that day and night. You may be surprised at the times this colour comes to mind, reminding you of what your unconscious mind is doing, keeping your body healthy, everything working as it should be. In whatever way you imagine that, you can do that now. Visualize your body doing what it needs to do, thinking about it working healthily, your hormones all in balance. All your hormones in balance, or you're getting pregnant, and everyone is different. And you can let your unconscious mind guide you in what it needs to do, to help you in the most powerful way possible. Noticing all the things about it that make the difference, letting you know you are changing. You might wonder when you first feel the difference within you. The first thing that lets you know your body's changing. The feeling of fertility growing stronger and stronger, feeling more and more relaxed, starting to believe more and more that your body can and is doing what it needs to do. It may not be till afterwards, looking back at the end of the day, you might be surprised how your thinking is changing, forgetting to remember past beliefs, and being aware of the past, wherever you sense or see it, and how it is changing. Letting go of anything that no longer helping you getting pregnant, perhaps seeing it getting further and further away from you. You realize it's no longer who you are. Now you can look forward to who you are becoming. From now, noticing more and more how you're believing in your mind and body's ability to get pregnant. And if there is a part of you holding back from what you want for whatever reason, your unconscious mind can be aware of that part of you now. All it needs to do to let it go, or meet its need in a new and more positive way, whichever way represents that now. Because your unconscious has made the decision it's ready to get pregnant. Now, because you believe you can conceive. Now you can imagine that now. The moment your baby is conceived. Whichever way your unconscious mind represents it. Thinking about the moment your new healthy mind and body working as it's supposed to. Doing all it needs to do. Whether you imagine using more biological images or some other way doesn't matter. It just means you are focusing your unconscious mind to help your body and mind in the most positive and powerful way. Imagine the egg in a safe and protective place for it to be nurtured. Have all it needs to grow, strong, thrive. A place only you can provide in the most natural and positive way. Feeling that sense of nurturing inside you as your body does all it needs to do to become that place. From now, whether you picture this fertilization and the embryo embedding itself securely and safely over and over, or whether you imagine the process developing and opening out in front of you, as your unconscious mind takes everything it needs from this. You may be surprised how this image comes back to mind from time to time. At times it might surprise you. It just means your unconscious mind is continuing to do what it needs to do to help you fall pregnant, creating that fertility within you, which means you can begin to believe. Believe this time it's different. So And your unconscious mind takes all it needs from you to help you in the most powerful way. As I count down from 1 to 5. 5. You begin to be aware of your breathing again. 4. Begin to be aware of the weight of your arms. 3. You begin to notice the weight of your fingers slowly returning to normal. 2. You begin to notice the weight of your eyelids. And 1, when your unconscious mind has taken everything it needs from this to make the difference that makes a difference for you, you can open your eyes and return to the room, or stay asleep, whichever you choose.
Russell, that was amazing. Thank you so much. And
you're welcome.
I know all of our listeners are just nice and relaxed now. And Russell, I know you offer a variety of different programs. So can you just give us a little breakdown of maybe some of the programs that you offer that is not just natural, and then you offer a variety of different things?
There's different levels of support I offer people. One is there's the standard programs, the hypnosis programs via the website, which include a number of tracks that support people through the different stage of the process. There's a program for natural conception, there's a program for assisted conception. And they are kind of standard, but they're, again, with cognitive hypnotherapy, it's very well written where I don't tell you where to go to relax, because everyone relaxes in different places. So they're very well worded or framed so you can create your own experience within that. But then the next level is if people want to work one-to-one, I can do a completely bespoke program for them. After a consultation, I can tailor a hypnosis program for them based on their unique experience of where they're at and some of maybe their thinking or the emotions which are kind of affecting them. Or another kind of program offer is this journey of letting go of thoughts, which includes hypnosis programs, but also it's more of often it's kind of a journey of a number of kind of calls where we can deepen people's understanding of thought and let go of that thought, and they find that sense of peace moment to moment more readily. So there's different kind of levels of support that people can access. Great.
Well, thank you so much, Russell. This has just been an incredible conversation. Thank you so much for the transformational work that you're doing and supporting couples in their dreams of becoming parents. And, before we wrap it up, is there anything else that you'd like to share with our listeners today?
The word comes to mind, as you said, that was acceptance. One of the things is about when you come to the here and now, it's accepting where we're at. And one thing we haven't touched on is, but accepting is tough. really, tough.
Yeah.
And just accept that. And, there's studies that show that stress levels with women going through infertility are equivalent to those with AIDS, cancer, and heart disease. And no one tells them just to relax. And I think people outside the journey don't understand how tough it is. So it's being gentle on yourself. And I'll never forget the first client I worked with. She came to see me just before her 4th IVF. She just finished her 3rd and she wanted to go into her 4th. And my first bit of therapy with her, just go away. I don't want to see her for 6 weeks. Don't even think about the next cycle. It's like running a marathon and getting to the end, only to be told you've got to do it all again. Even with natural conception, it's like a monthly marathon, emotional marathon, and it's just can be draining. So, the one thing I'll leave is just accept it. This can be really tough. It can be really lonely. So find the support where you can and be kind and gentle on yourself, and just recognizing that sometimes when we take a step back, we're actually gaining time. I know a lot of people worry about their biological clock ticking, but you know what? The fertility doesn't drop like a brick at the age of 40. A lot of people will have this expectation the world ends at 40, or whatever age people have in mind, and just acceptance that it is really tough. It can be really tough, and just finding ways of supporting and loving yourself through this. That came to mind.
Oh, well, thank you. Yes, I agree. And that's why we have this summit put in place, is to share the resources and also, to give listeners an opportunity to connect and find different ways to work with different people that can support them. I feel like there's different professionals all over the world that are the right fit for you. So keep trying and keep looking until you find that provider that's right for you. So thank you so much, Russell.